I never expected a simple greenhouse to turn my quiet life upside down, but that's exactly what happened when Karen Whitfield, the HOA president with a reputation for weaponizing rules, set her sights on me. It all began one sunny morning, when I was pruning my tomato plants, the scent of fresh soil in the air, and I heard the faint hum of a neighbor's voice through the fence. "Marcus, that greenhouse of yours is completely unacceptable." I froze. Of course it was Karen, peering over her meticulously trimmed hedge with a look that could curdle milk. Karen's complaints weren't new. She had a long list of violations in her little black book. Flags hung at the wrong angle, garden gnomes slightly off-center. Even the wrong color mulch could earn you a formal notice. But this time, it was different. My greenhouse was just shy of 5 feet tall, made of clear polycarbonate panels, and tucked neatly in the corner of my yard. According to Karen, it was an eyesore, a safety hazard, and apparently a threat to the very fabric of the community. I tried reasoning with her politely, hoping logic would prevail. "It's only for growing vegetables," I said. "I'm not blocking anyone's view." But Karen didn't care about logic. She cared about control. Within 24 hours, she had filed a formal complaint with the HOA board, complete with diagrams, photographs, and a dramatic description of how my unauthorized structure endangered property values. At first I felt frustrated. How could something so harmless stir up such chaos? But then I realized the real battle wasn't about the greenhouse. It was about power, and Karen was testing me to see if I would bend. Most neighbors would have caved immediately, but I had an advantage Karen didn't expect. My wife, Lisa, was a certified building inspector, calm, thorough, and fearless. She had a knack for seeing the truth when everyone else saw only their fears. When I told her about Karen's complaint, Lisa's reaction was not anger, it was quiet amusement. "Sounds like she's about to learn a lesson," she said. That night, we reviewed all the HOA regulations, permits, and construction codes. Everything was perfectly legal. Every panel in the greenhouse met safety standards. Every inch of the structure adhered to local zoning laws. In short, Karen had absolutely no ground to stand on. Little did Karen know, the very next visit would turn the tables in a way she never anticipated. The showdown wasn't going to be about confrontation. It was going to be about proof. And when proof is in the hands of the right person, even the loudest complainer can't win. The following Saturday, Karen decided to escalate her campaign. She arrived in her signature power walk style, clipboard in hand, determination etched across her face like armor. "Marcus, I'm here to make sure that greenhouse is removed immediately," she declared, glancing at my neatly organized rows of peppers and cucumbers. I smiled politely and gestured toward Lisa, who had come along to support me. Karen's eyes narrowed, clearly not expecting the inspector to show up in person. Lisa's presence immediately changed the dynamic. She didn't rush to argue or raise her voice. Instead, she calmly examined the greenhouse from every angle. She checked the structural supports, the ventilation and the foundation, jotting notes quietly in her inspector's notebook. Karen, on the other hand, fidgeted with her clipboard, muttering about community standards and potential hazards, while failing to produce a single specific violation. "Everything here meets code," Lisa said finally, straightening up and fixing Karen with a calm, unyielding gaze. "There's no issue with height, materials, or safety. This greenhouse is perfectly legal and compliant with both HOA rules and city regulations." Karen's face tightened, like a storm cloud trying to hold itself together. She opened her mouth, but Lisa continued, "If you wish, I can provide a written inspection report confirming this. It would clarify everything for the HOA board and prevent any further baseless complaints." For a brief moment, Karen looked like she might storm off, but her pride kept her rooted to the spot. I could see her mind working frantically, calculating how she could turn the situation in her favor. Meanwhile, Lisa handed me a small copy of the inspection report. I felt a rush of relief. Finally, we had documented proof that Karen's complaint was nothing more than personal. Vendetta disguised as community concern. Karen tried a few last-ditch tactics, pointing at minor scuff, marks on the base of the greenhouse, and arguing that it was unsightly. Lisa simply noted that the marks were cosmetic and posed no structural or safety risks. Every attempt Karen made to find fault was calmly and systematically dismantled. It was like watching a game of chess. Except Lisa had anticipated every move before Karen even thought of it. Eventually, Karen slumped, her energy spent, muttering about procedures and next steps. I watched her leave, clipboard dragging behind her like a defeated flag. That day, I realized something important. Karen's power was only as strong as our willingness to let her dictate terms. With the right preparation, knowledge, and calm strategy, even the most overbearing HOA president could be disarmed. That afternoon, as Lisa and I sat among the thriving tomato plants, I couldn't help but laugh. Karen had underestimated us, and in doing so, had sealed her own defeat. But I knew this wasn't the end. Karen might try another angle, another complaint, another threat, and when that moment came, we would be ready. The following week, Karen didn't disappear. She regrouped. I could see her watching from her porch, notebook in hand, whispering into her phone, as if plotting the next stage of her campaign against my greenhouse. But this time, I wasn't worried. Lisa and I had anticipated that she might escalate, and we had a plan ready. The inspection report we'd obtained wasn't just proof. It was a shield. And in Karen's world, evidence was more powerful than yelling or intimidation. It all started when the HOA board scheduled its monthly meeting. Karen arrived early, armed with her usual confidence and an air of self-righteousness, convinced she could sway the other members to her side. She was expecting complaints, arguments, and maybe a little drama, but she wasn't. Expecting Lisa, I had spoken to her privately and asked her to attend, just in case Karen tried to manipulate the discussion. When Lisa walked in, clipboard in hand and wearing a subtle but commanding expression, Karen's smug smile faltered for a split second. That split second was all we needed. The meeting began with routine updates, but soon Karen brought up my greenhouse. "This structure," she said, gesturing dramatically, "violates our community standards and is completely unacceptable." I insist it be removed immediately. I remained calm, letting her speak while Lisa quietly prepared her notes. Then, with perfect timing, she stood and addressed the board. "I conducted a full inspection of Mr. Chen's greenhouse," she said, voice steady and authoritative. "It complies with all HOA regulations and city building codes. There are no safety concerns, and it poses no threat to property values. This complaint is unfounded." Karen's face turned red, and I could see her fumbling through her notes, trying to find some loophole, any technicality she could exploit. But Lisa had anticipated every one of her points. Every diagram she presented, every citation she referenced, left Karen with fewer options. The board members listened intently, nodding at Lisa's clear, concise explanations. Karen's complaints began to unravel in real time, her authority crumbling under the weight of factual evidence. By the end of the meeting, Karen was nearly speechless. The board formally dismissed her complaint, citing the inspection report and the lack of any legitimate violations. I could hardly believe how smoothly it had gone. What could have been a prolonged, stressful ordeal turned into a decisive victory. All because we stayed calm, prepared, and strategic. After the meeting, Karen lingered, muttering under her breath as she gathered her things. I caught her eye and simply smiled. She had underestimated us from the start, assuming intimidation would be enough. But proof, preparation, and a calm demeanor had dismantled her plan completely. The greenhouse wasn't just safe, it was untouchable. Little did we know, though, that Karen wasn't done scheming. One more move, one more desperate attempt could be coming. And this one might be more personal than ever before. A few days after the HOA meeting, I thought the nightmare might finally be over. My greenhouse was safe, my garden thriving, and Karen seemed to have retreated to her usual complaining from afar. But then I noticed something strange. An envelope slipped under our front door, unmarked, with a single note inside. You haven't won yet." My stomach sank. Karen was planning her next move, and this one felt personal. That evening, Lisa and I decided to fortify our position. Not with anger, but with vigilance. We installed cameras, double-checked all permits, and reinforced the greenhouse. If Karen was planning another attack, we would be ready. She had already learned that logic and proof were powerful weapons, but she clearly hadn't learned caution. The following morning, Karen appeared again, this time with a friend from the HOA board. She'd convinced to witness the alleged violations. They stomped around my property, taking photos and measuring distances, but Lisa calmly followed, recording every interaction. Finally, Karen confronted me, her voice sharp, accusing me of defying the community. I simply smiled. "Lisa has inspected everything, and the board dismissed your complaint. There's nothing to defy here. Just enjoy the view." Karen's frustration was palpable. She realized that intimidation no longer worked, and even her allies could see the truth. But she wasn't done. She tried to appeal to the city inspector, hoping to find some obscure technicality. That's when Lisa took over, contacting the city's inspection office directly. She presented all documentation, including permits, the HOA-approved site plan, and her professional inspection report. Within hours, the city confirmed that the greenhouse was fully compliant. Karen's last hope evaporated. By the end of the week, Karen's attempts to escalate had completely backfired. Her credibility with the HOA board plummeted, and even neighbors who had previously been intimidated by her began questioning her motives. Meanwhile, our greenhouse flourished, every plant a testament to preparation, persistence, and calm strategy. Reflecting on the ordeal, I realized the most important lesson wasn't just about HOA rules or legal compliance. It was about standing firm with knowledge, evidence, and the right support. Karen had underestimated us because she assumed fear and force would succeed. Instead, patience, documentation, and expertise turned the tables entirely. As for Karen, she never officially admitted defeat, but the tension in the neighborhood shifted. Her complaints dwindled, and our greenhouse became a symbol not just of vegetables and flowers, but of resilience against overreach. And every time I step outside, surrounded by thriving plants and a well-kept garden, I remember how close we came to unnecessary conflict, and how one calm, prepared inspector changed everything. Sometimes the best victories are quiet, measured, and completely unshakable. And in this case, the greenhouse wasn't just a structure, it was a statement. If you enjoyed seeing how Karen's complaints got handled, make sure to hit that like button. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever dealt with a crazy HOA or a neighbor like Karen? And don't forget to subscribe for more wild neighborhood stories and real-life HOA drama you won't believe.